My wife cheated with her boss and stole $300, $0 from our joint account, then turned around and sued me for emotional damages after I found out. Now our house and life savings are on the line. Hello everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd be the guy writing a story like this, but here we are. Honestly, if you told me a year ago that my wife, Lisa, would turn out to be cheating on me with her boss, steal hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then sue me for emotional damages, I'd have laughed in your face. But life has a way of throwing the worst curveballs when you least expect it. Lisa and I had been together for 8 years. We married young, built a good life, or at least I thought so. She's always been a bit bitchy, demanding, quick to lie, and very manipulative when things didn't go her way. But she's also charming and beautiful, which made it easy to overlook her flaws. We had a decent house, 2 cars, and a joint savings account that was supposed to be for our future. I worked hard as a project manager and she was a marketing executive. Things seemed fine, or so I thought. It all started subtly, with small things I didn't pay much attention to at first. Lisa's phone would buzz late at night, and she'd quickly silence it before I could see. She started coming home later, claiming work emergencies or client dinners. She'd get defensive if I asked too many questions. She'd say I was paranoid or insecure, but I knew something was off. The way she'd avoid eye contact, her nervous laughter when I'd confront her about her sudden secrecy, it all added up. Then came the day I found the first real sign. I was cleaning out her purse, trying to find my missing keys, and I noticed her phone was unlocked. I hesitated, knowing I shouldn't pry, but curiosity got the better of me. I saw a string of messages between her and someone named, who I later learned was her boss. The texts weren't just professional, they were flirty, suggestive, full of inside jokes and plans that clearly went beyond work. What really hit me like a punch to the gut was the last message I saw. "Can't wait to see you tonight. Let's make it special." That was the moment I knew. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. My hands trembled as I scrolled through more messages, more than I wanted to see. They were talking about meeting up after hours, sneaking around, and even sending explicit photos. My wife, my partner, was cheating on me with her boss. I didn't say anything that night. Instead, I sat in the dark, replaying everything, trying to process what I'd just found. I felt betrayed, embarrassed, and furious. How long had this been going on? Was I blind? Did I mean nothing to her? The worst part was that she always acted like she loved me, like I was her everything. Turns out that was all a lie. The next day, I confronted her. I waited until she got home from work, heart pounding. When she walked through the door, I was already waiting with her phone in my hand, the screen showing the messages. Her face twisted in shock and then anger when she saw what I had. She spun some bullshit about how it was just flirtation, how it was just a bad influence, and that she was sorry but it was just sex, nothing serious. That she needed excitement, she said, as if that somehow justified everything. I told her I'd seen enough, that I knew she was cheating, stealing money, and lying to my face. Her eyes flashed with disdain. She told me I was overreacting, that I was jealous and insecure, and that I was ruining her career and reputation. She accused me of being controlling, of not trusting her, and then she started crying, bitchy tears, not genuine sorrow. She tried to make me feel guilty, claiming I was emotionally abusive and that I owed her an apology for accusing her unfairly. In that moment, I felt a mix of heartbreak and rage. I never imagined I'd be in this position, defending myself against someone I loved and trusted. I wanted to believe her lies, to pretend it was all a mistake, but the evidence was staring me right in the face. I knew she was lying, manipulating me just like she always did when she wanted her way. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about everything: her betrayal, the money she stole, the lies, the money. She had taken around $300, $0 from our joint account over the past few months, claiming it was for investments, but I found out she'd been funneling it to her in secret accounts. I felt numb, then furious. How could she do this? How could she betray me like this, cheat, steal, and then turn around and accuse me of emotional damage? I started digging deeper, trying to piece everything together. I hired a private investigator just to be sure. Turns out she'd been having sex with at her office, in hotel rooms, and even at a few of her business trips. She lied to my face about everything. Meanwhile, she was draining our savings, ruining our credit, and planning her escape route. I realized I had to act fast. I couldn't let her drain us completely or destroy what little dignity I had left. That's when I started planning my revenge. I wasn't just going to sit back and take this lying down. She thought she could get away with everything, that she was smarter than me. Well, I was going to show her she was wrong. I'd been betrayed, humiliated, and financially ruined, but I still had one thing she didn't: control over her lies and her future. And that's where I'm at now. I'm just trying to figure out my next move, how to protect myself, my house, and what little is left of our savings. I've got a plan to expose her completely, and I won't stop until she pays for what she's done. Because in the end, no one gets away with betrayal like this, especially not from me. After discovering everything, I knew I couldn't just confront her again and hope for the best. Lisa was the type to spin lies faster than I could keep up, and I realized I needed a solid plan if I wanted to come out of this alive, emotionally and financially. I started gathering evidence, documenting every lie, every financial transaction, every suspicious message. I hired a private investigator just to confirm what I already suspected, and sure enough, the pie found her sneaking around with even more than I initially uncovered. Hotel receipts, secret phone numbers, bank transfers. She'd been funneling money into her aunt's accounts for months. The first thing I did was log into our joint bank account. I had to see the extent of her theft. I was stunned. Over the last 6 months, she drained nearly $300, $0. She told me she was investing, saving for our future, but all that money was gone, spent on luxury trips, designer clothes, and I later learned rent and personal expenses. I was so angry I could barely breathe. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach all over again. The betrayal wasn't just emotional, it was financial. She was robbing us blind, and I was left holding the bag. Once I had all the proof, I started planning my next move. I knew I had to confront her again, but this time with evidence. I wanted to see her squirm, to see her realize she couldn't lie her way out of this. I arranged a meeting at a neutral location, a coffee shop nearby. When she arrived, I laid everything out on the table: screenshots, bank statements, the pie's report. Her face went pale for a second, then twisted into anger and denial. She started throwing out excuses. "It's just sex," she said, "and I are just friends with benefits, and the money was for our future, I was saving it." I cut her off. I told her I'd had enough of her bullshit. I was done being a fool. I told her I knew about her affair, her theft, and her lies, that she could spin her stories all she wanted, but I had the evidence. I told her I was filing for divorce and I was going to get a lawyer. She looked at me with that bitchy smirk, trying to act innocent, but I saw right through her. She tried to deny everything, but it was useless. The truth was out. That's when her tone changed. She got defensive, started yelling, accusing me of being controlling and emotionally abusive. She claimed I was paranoid, that I'd ruined her reputation, and that I owed her an apology for accusing her falsely. She even had the audacity to say she was the victim here, that I was just jealous and insecure. I couldn't believe the level of her lies. It was like talking to a wall of bullshit. I told her she was a liar, a thief, and a manipulator, that I'd expose her to everyone, and I'd make sure she paid for what she did. I left the meeting feeling numb but determined. I knew I needed to act fast to protect what was left of my life. I contacted a divorce lawyer, started the process, and made arrangements to get a forensic accountant involved. I wanted to recover every penny she stole, or at least make her pay for it. I also contacted the bank to freeze her accounts so she couldn't drain them anymore. I felt like I was on the edge of a breakdown, but I knew I had to stay strong. This wasn't just about money. It was about my dignity, my sanity, and my future. Meanwhile, Lisa was still acting like she was the victim. She'd call me crying, saying I was ruining her career, her life, and that I was making everything worse. She insisted she loved me, that she'd never cheat or steal if I just gave her a chance. But I saw through her act. I knew she was lying just like she always did. The more she begged, the more I realized I'd never trust her again. She betrayed me so badly that I didn't think I could ever forgive her. Not for the affair, not for stealing our money, and not for turning our life into a nightmare. The worst part was realizing how much I'd been blind. I had always thought we had a good life, that we were building something real. Turns out I was just a pawn in her game, someone she used to get what she wanted: money, excitement, validation. Now I was left with the mess she created, trying to pick up the pieces. But I was also angry, furious that she'd taken everything from us, that she'd lied and cheated and then turned around and played the victim. I decided I wasn't going to let her get away with it. I had to do something more. I started digging into her work emails, her phone records, her social media. I wanted to find proof of her lies, her manipulations. I knew she'd try to spin her story, make me look like the bad guy, but I was prepared. I wasn't going to let her win. I had my evidence, my lawyer, and my resolve. So here I am trying to figure out the next step. I know she's planning something, probably trying to hide more money or spin a new story to save herself. But I won't let her. I'll fight for what's mine, for my house, for my dignity. And I'll make damn sure she pays for the damage she's done, emotionally, financially, and otherwise. Because if there's one thing I learned, it's that some women will do anything to get what they want, even if it destroys everything in their path. And I refuse to be the one left holding the broken pieces of our life. After the initial shock wore off and I started taking real steps to protect myself, I realized how deep Lisa's betrayal ran. She wasn't just cheating and stealing. She was actively trying to destroy what little stability we had left. The moment I hired the lawyer and the forensic accountant, I felt a strange mixture of relief and dread. Relief because I finally had some leverage, and dread because I knew she wouldn't go down without a fight. The first thing I did was get a court order to freeze her assets. That was a game changer. Suddenly, she couldn't access the money she'd stolen, at least not easily. It was a small victory, but I knew it was just the beginning. I also started documenting every interaction: texts, emails, phone calls. I wanted to have a solid case when I went to court. I didn't trust Lisa to play fair, so I had to be prepared for her to lie, manipulate, or even try to turn the tables on me. Meanwhile, she kept up her act, calling me constantly, begging me to work things out, claiming she was sorry and that she'd change. She even threw in the classic "I love you, I don't want to lose everything" line. I just listened in silence, knowing it was all bullshit. She didn't love me. She loved the money, the thrill, and her own lies. Every time she said she'd stop seeing, I knew she was lying. I had proof she'd been sneaking around even after she claimed she'd cut him off. One night she showed up at the house, crying, saying she'd made a mistake and that she was willing to go to therapy. I looked at her and realized how much she was trying to manipulate me into forgiving her. She played the victim so well, crying and saying she was so sorry for hurting me, but I wasn't falling for it anymore. I told her I needed space, that I was done with her games. I knew I had to be careful. She was a master at emotional blackmail. I also started to look into her work situation. I found out she had been secretly meeting with during business hours, sometimes even in the office. She lied about her whereabouts, claiming she was working late or at client meetings. But the pie confirmed she was in hotel rooms or having sex with him in her office. That was the moment I decided I had enough evidence to take legal action for infidelity and breach of trust. I wanted her to pay for what she'd done, not just emotionally but financially as well. The more I uncovered, the more furious I got. She'd been spending money like it was going out of style: designer handbags, expensive vacations, luxury dinners, all paid for with our stolen savings. And she'd done it all behind my back. I felt like a complete idiot for trusting her, for thinking we had a normal life. Turns out she'd been living a double life, one where she was cheating, stealing, and lying every step of the way. I decided to take control of the situation. I contacted a divorce lawyer and we began the process. I wanted full custody of the house, the money, and anything else she tried to hide or steal. I also filed a suit for damages because her emotional betrayal wasn't just a slap in the face, it had cost me everything. our savings, my trust, my peace of mind. I knew she'd try to fight dirty, so I prepared myself for a long legal battle. But I also realized I couldn't just focus on revenge. I had to start rebuilding my life. I reached out to friends and family, told them what was happening, and leaned on them for support. I started therapy to deal with the emotional fallout. The pain of betrayal cuts deep, and I knew I needed help processing it all. I also made a promise to myself. No matter what happens, I wouldn't let her ruin me completely. I'd come out of this stronger, even if it meant starting over from scratch. Lisa kept trying to manipulate the situation. She'd call me, crying, accusing me of ruining her life, and claiming I was just jealous of her success with. She'd say she loved me, that she'd never cheat if I just forgave her, but I knew better. Her tears were fake, her words hollow. She was trying to spin her lies again to make me doubt myself. But I had the evidence and I had my resolve. I wasn't going to let her get away with this. I started to set some boundaries. I told her she was not allowed in the house unless I was there, and I made sure to keep all communication through my lawyer. I also began to secretly record some of her calls, just in case she tried to pull something sneaky. I knew she'd escalate her manipulations, and I had to be ready. I wasn't going to be caught off guard again. The financial damage was staggering. I'd worked so hard for years, building a life, saving for retirement, planning for the future. And now it was all in jeopardy because of her greed and lies. I was furious that she'd taken everything from us, that she'd betrayed me so completely. But I also knew I had to stay calm, focus on the legal side, and protect what was left. I wasn't going to let her destroy me entirely, not without a fight. In the end, I learned a harsh lesson. Trust is fragile, and some people will do anything to get what they want, even if it means destroying everything around them. I don't know what's going to happen next, but I do know I won't let her win. I'll fight for my house, my savings, and my dignity. And I'll make sure she pays for the pain she's caused, one way or another. By the time I had all my ducks in a row, lawyer hired, evidence compiled, accounts frozen, I felt a strange mixture of relief and dread. Relief because I finally had leverage, a solid case to show what Lisa had done, and dread because I knew she wasn't going down without a fight. She was a master manipulator after all, and I was just a guy trying to hold onto what little I had left. The day I filed for divorce and civil damages, I could see the panic in her eyes. That was the moment I knew she realized I was serious. Lisa's reaction was classic. She went into full-blown bitch mode, screaming on the phone, crying, pleading, then turning cold and bitchy again when she thought I wasn't listening. She accused me of being controlling, jealous, emotionally abusive, anything to shift the blame away from herself. She even had the nerve to say I was ruining her reputation, that I was trying to ruin her career. But I didn't care about her career anymore. All I cared about was stopping her from taking any more of our money or messing up my life further. I remember the day I went to court to get the temporary restraining order. The judge took one look at the evidence, her texts, bank transfers, hotel receipts, and immediately granted it. She wasn't allowed near the house, our bank accounts, or me. That was a huge win, but I knew it was just a temporary fix. The real fight was coming in the legal proceedings. I also made sure to get full custody of the house, which, thanks to the evidence, I believed I could keep. But her lawyer was already scheming, trying to find ways to drag things out or make me look bad. Meanwhile, Lisa doubled down on her manipulations. She kept trying to call me, send messages, even show up at the house unannounced. I ignored her calls, blocked her number, and only communicated through my lawyer. I also hired a private investigator to keep tabs on her, just in case she tried to hide more money or assets. What I found was shocking. She'd been meeting with more often than I thought, sometimes in places I didn't even know about. She'd been funneling more stolen money into secret accounts, and I had proof. One night I caught her red-handed trying to access some of those accounts. She thought I was asleep, sneaking into her phone, but I was awake. I watched her, furious but calm, as she entered passwords I'd never guessed she knew. I recorded her, and that video became a key piece of evidence in the case. It was surreal watching her betray me so openly, so brazenly. That was the moment I realized she was willing to do anything to get away with her lies, her theft, and her affair. The emotional toll was brutal. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and furious all at once. I'd always thought we had a good life, that I was providing for us, building a future. Turns out she'd been planning her escape the whole time. Every dollar stolen, every lie told was her way of cutting ties and running away. I kept asking myself how I missed the signs, how I let her get away with it for so long. But the truth was, I'd been blind. She was so good at hiding her true self. The worst part was the emotional manipulation. She'd call me crying, saying she loved me, that she was sorry, that she'd never do it again. But I knew it was all bullshit. She'd cry on cue, then turn around and lie again. I started to see through her act. I realized she was a master at making me doubt myself, at making me feel guilty. But I refused to be played anymore. I knew the only way forward was legal action and cutting her out of my life completely. I also started to think about what I wanted. Did I want to try to fix this mess? Or was it better to cut my losses and walk away? Honestly, I was leaning toward the latter. I couldn't see any future with someone who lied, cheated, and stole from me. Trust was gone, and I didn't think I could rebuild it. I just wanted my life back, my house, my savings, and some sense of peace. In the meantime, Lisa was still trying to manipulate the situation. She'd send me fake apologies, then turn around and do something even more damaging. She'd tell her friends I was abusing her emotionally, trying to paint herself as the victim. But I knew better. I had the proof. I had her on video, her bank accounts, her texts. I was ready for the fight, and I wasn't going to back down. I knew she'd try to drag things out in court, but I was prepared. I had nothing to hide, and I was determined to make her pay for her lies and betrayal. The financial damage was staggering. We'd gone from a comfortable life to fighting for every penny. Our savings were almost gone, and I was worried about losing the house, my credit, everything I'd worked for. But I refused to let her get away with it. I was going to fight until the very end, no matter how long it took. Because I realized in the worst way possible that some people will do anything for money and power, even if it destroys everything around them. And I was done being the victim. From now on, I was the one fighting back. The legal battle dragged on longer than I expected, and each passing day felt like walking through a minefield. Lisa's lawyer was relentless, trying to drag out the proceedings, spin her lies, and make me look like the bad guy. She kept claiming I was controlling and emotionally abusive, that I was the reason she had to cheat and steal money. Her friends and family were feeding her lies, telling her she was a victim of my supposed abuse, which only fueled her manipulation. But I had the evidence, and I knew I was in the right. One of the most shocking moments came during the deposition. Lisa sat across from me, looking smug, trying to act innocent. She everything said she'd never stolen a dime, that her affair was just a mistake, and that she was trying to fix things. I couldn't contain my anger. I pulled out my phone and played the recordings I had of her sneaking around, her accessing our bank accounts in secret, and her crying crocodile tears when she called me abusive. Her face turned red, then pale, as she realized I had her dead to rights. That was the moment I knew I had her cornered. Meanwhile, the financial side was looking even worse for her. The forensic accountant uncovered even more stolen money, more than I initially thought. She'd been draining our accounts for over a year, funneling cash into her secret accounts, and even using some of it to pay off rent and personal expenses. I was furious. This wasn't just a betrayal, it was outright theft on a massive scale. I demanded full restitution, and the judge agreed. That meant Lisa would have to pay back every penny she stole, plus damages for emotional distress. But the fight wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about dignity. I wanted her to pay for the pain she'd caused. I also requested full custody of the house, knowing she'd try to claim she deserved part of it, but I had proof she'd been living a double life, her affair, her secret accounts, her lies. I wasn't going to let her walk away with everything. I wanted her to be held accountable, not just financially but morally. The court hearings were intense. Lisa showed up with her bitty smirk, trying to sway the judge with tears and sob stories. She claimed she was a victim of my controlling behavior, that I'd ruined her reputation, and that she deserved a second chance. I sat there, calm and collected, presenting all my evidence. When the judge finally looked at everything, it was clear who was telling the truth. She was ordered to pay back the stolen money, give up her claim to the house, and stay away from me. Restrictions she immediately violated, of course. That was a turning point. I finally felt like I was gaining control of the situation. But Lisa wasn't done. She started spreading rumors, trying to turn friends and family against me. She said I was abusive, controlling, and that I'd ruined her life. Her reputation was taking a hit, but I didn't care. I knew the truth and I had the evidence. The people who mattered knew what kind of person she was. Throughout all this, I was exhausted emotionally. I'd gone from being a happy, secure husband to a guy fighting for his life, his house, and his dignity. I'd been betrayed on every level by my wife, by her lies, by her theft. I'd lost trust, security, and peace of mind. But I also learned something important. You can't control other people's actions, but you can control how you respond. I chose to fight. I chose to stand tall despite the chaos. I refused to let her take everything without a fight. Now, as I sit here reflecting on everything, I realize I've come a long way. I've rebuilt some of my life step by step. I've started therapy, focused on my career, and gradually moved past the pain. The house is still mine, our savings are being recovered, and I've cut all ties with her. The worst betrayal has taught me a hard lesson. Never ignore the signs, always trust your instincts, and never let someone steal your peace without a fight. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know I won't let her destroy me. I've learned that revenge isn't just about money or legal victory, it's about reclaiming your life, your dignity, and your peace of mind. I hope anyone reading this who's going through something similar finds strength in that. Because no matter how bad it gets, you can come out the other side. You just have to be willing to fight for it. Looking back now, I realize how much I underestimated her, how deep her lies ran, how far she was willing to go just to keep her secret life afloat. I used to think I knew my wife, that we had a solid partnership. Turns out I was just a fool to believe that. The betrayal cut so deep I didn't think I'd ever fully recover, but somehow I'm still standing. The house is still in my name, the court ordered her to pay back every cent she stole, and I've managed to rebuild some semblance of stability. It's not the life I envisioned, but it's mine again. I've learned that trust is fragile. It can be shattered with one lie, one betrayal, one secret kept hidden for too long. And when that trust is broken, everything else crumbles with it. I also learned that some people will do anything for money and power, even if it means wrecking the lives of those who love them. Lisa's actions changed me forever, but they also made me stronger. I refuse to be a victim anymore. The process has been exhausting, emotionally, financially, mentally. I've had sleepless nights, moments of pure rage, and times when I felt like giving up. But I kept going because I knew I had to. For myself, for the life I want to rebuild. I've come to accept that I can't change her, can't undo her lies, but I can control my future. I can choose to move on, to learn from this nightmare, and to be better for it. Now I focus on healing. I cut her out of my life entirely. I don't want her manipulations, her lies, or her theft to have any more power over me. I've started seeing a therapist, not just to process what happened, but to rebuild my confidence. I've also started working out, reconnecting with friends, and finding new hobbies. It's slow, but I see progress. One thing I want anyone reading this to take away is this: don't ignore the signs. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. And when someone betrays you on that scale, cheating, stealing, lying, it's okay to fight back. It's okay to be angry, to seek justice, and to take control of your life again. You don't have to accept betrayal as your new normal. You can come out the other side stronger, wiser, and more resilient. I don't regret standing up for myself, even if it cost me everything initially. Because now I know what I'm worth. I know I deserve honesty, respect, and loyalty. And I refuse to let anyone take that away from me again. The pain will fade and the scars will heal, but the lessons I've learned will stay with me forever. To anyone who's going through something similar, keep fighting, trust yourself, protect your peace, and never forget that you are capable of rebuilding even after the worst betrayal. Life isn't about avoiding pain, it's about how you rise from it. And I promise you can rise. I am living proof of that.